Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube, and I wanted to do a video about this new series that just concluded. It just had its season finale, and the TV series is called Mr. Robot. A few weeks back, I had a few subs mentioning this show to me and asking if there was anything in the show that I may have seen or whatever. So I went ahead and checked out the first episode and was pretty much hooked, and I just kind of binged on it, and within a couple days I was all caught up through 9 episodes. I was waiting for the 10th episode, but it was last week, either Tuesday or Wednesday, where they actually had that shooting, or the alleged shooting, of the 2 reporters out in Virginia. And of course that's been really big news all over the place. A lot of people have covered that shooting, a lot of really shady things around it, a lot of questionable things happening with that shooting, even the footage we saw. You should do some research on that if you're not familiar with this subject. Certainly at this point, anytime we see a shooting in the news, especially one that's in the news on all the channels, it's being promoted, right? It's being pushed out there. We really have to question these things and investigate these things, because keep in mind, every single day, not just in America, but all around the world, there's violent crime happening. There's people getting shot, people getting stabbed, overdoses, whatever it is, right? But all around the world, every single day, there are horrible things happening. So we have to start asking ourselves, why is it that the mainstream media, not just in America, but all over the world, typically seems to focus on the same stories, and they will promote these stories for weeks on end without telling you about any of the other things that are happening. Another thing we find time and time again with a lot of these stories that are promoted in the news, a lot of these shootings and whatnot, they always have to have some kind of a racial component. Now, I've done some videos in the past talking about the race war that this beast system seems to be promoting, and I believe that's all a part of the narrative. That's exactly what they're trying to do. So it was interesting that this television show that really is all about conspiracy theories had to wait for another week. They wanted to put it off because the news, of course, told us that the reason why is there was an event that took place in the final episode that seemed to mirror reality, that seemed to mirror what happened in Virginia. I'm going to get to that in just a little bit. Now, I finally saw the final episode. I'm not going to give away too much, so this should be fairly spoiler-free if you want to check this series out. I will warn you, though, it's very, very adult in nature. This certainly isn't for children. It's got a lot of really harsh language, a couple of really graphic scenes, and like I said, it's not exactly for kids. But if you're into watching these kind of things to see what kind of messages you might be able to find or what kind of symbolism might lie within, this is certainly a contender for all those things. And it's interesting how the media was saying that, that the event that took place in Virginia mirrored this event that took place in the season finale of Mr. Robot. And it's part of the reason I'm doing this video. If you're not familiar with my work, my channel, any of my videos, please check out some of it, and you'll see that I cover this subject quite a bit. Typically what we'll do over here on my channel is we explore kind of the occult nature of the world we're in right now, because there is a mirroring effect. There is a duality that we're seeing. I often say it's the veil lifting, but what you'll find in a lot of so-called entertainment over the last several years is a mirror effect. We're finding that it literally lines up with reality. We'll find things on these shows happening, and it truly mirrors things that are happening in the real, in this reality, in our space, right? Mr. Robot's no different, and there is some symbolism in Mr. Robot. I mean, the whole idea behind the series is it's about this character you see right here on the screen. His name is Elliot, and he is a genius hacker. He's also schizophrenic, and he's also a drug addict. As I watched the finale, I was really surprised because a lot of things really started coming together for me, and I suddenly was able to understand more and more why it was I was drawn to this show. And I'm really glad I gave it a chance now and watched it, just because, again, there are messages in this show, as far as I'm concerned, that mirror our own reality. Really, the main purpose behind this show, it's all about the global financial collapse. Elliot, our hero in the show, has basically launched a virus that's destroying all the financial system's records, essentially taking away the debt from everybody. Everybody in the world will be free of any kind of debt. Now, of course, that sounds like a great idea, and I'm certainly not saying anyone's ever actually going to do that in the real. Quite frankly, sign me up. It'd be great to see everybody's debt on every level completely and totally wiped out. But there's a lot more going on here. But as far as the duality goes, it's really interesting, because by the time you get to the finale of the series, you find that there is a major global financial collapse. And I'm going to show you some of that in just a moment. But before I do, I just want to show you a few other things that are very interesting that came out in this show. I'll show you a little bit of the symbolism, but I'm going to show you something else, though. Check this out. As I've said, I've covered this kind of thing time and time again. Oftentimes here on my channel, it's interesting because we'll dig into the synchronicities out there of things, the way things line up, trying to pick up pieces of the puzzle, if you will. And this is an excellent example of that. It really kind of blew my mind, but you may have heard of this story. It's about a website that was called Ashley Madison. And Ashley Madison is a website for people that are married but want to have affairs on the people they're married to. I know, it's sick, but apparently it's doing really well. It has millions and millions of customers. But not long ago, this just happened a few weeks back, some hackers got into Ashley Madison and released tons of names, just did a total data dump and exposed a lot of people that were actually signed up for Ashley Madison. So here's where we start venturing into the Twilight Zone a little bit. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of something from the season finale of Mr. Robot. Alright, so now we're back to the show. This is the season finale, and remember that they created this stuff long ago, okay, and then they start putting the episodes out one after the other, and this always takes time. So a lot of things that are involved in making a TV show, making a movie, getting it produced, then getting it on air, and then putting it all out there, right? So just keeping in mind that all this stuff happened before those data dumps from Ashley Madison, right? Now just listen up closely and check this out.
This kid should not be allowed to do what he did. He hacked into my private life. And then those Ashley Madison dumps happened.
After those Ashley Madison dumps happened, his wife found out that he was one of the people on the list. And again, it's very interesting, keeping in mind that this is the season finale. This stuff was filmed a while back. This stuff was filmed before the actual Ashley Madison dumps took place in real life. Now again, this is just one example of that duality. Oftentimes I say the veil is lifting. We're literally seeing things like this. We're seeing things playing out in our own reality. We're seeing the stuff playing out in TV shows and movies, oftentimes before they take place in the real, or at least what we call the real. So this right here is the scene that caused the producers of the show to put it off for another week. Because last week they would have played it, this would have played out at the same time that we saw the alleged live shooting on TV of those two reporters. So at the same time, during the television show, this right here is one of the CEOs of the company Evil Corp. And Evil Corp is, of course, kind of the bad guys, the big evil corporation in this series. The virus doesn't only wipe out people's debt all around the world, but it also destroys a lot of people's pensions and their retirements and things like this, specifically the people that work for Evil Corp. So this was a scene where on live television, one of the CEOs basically says, you know what, I'm just going to tell you the truth. There's no getting out of this. This is total financial global collapse. And he pulls the trigger on live television. So it's interesting, once again, we're not just seeing that duality with the shooting or with even Ashley Madison. There's a lot more going on here. So this is near the end of the episode, and of course, once again, that virus has gone live. A lot of people's debts wiped out. The whole world's kind of in confusion. At one point, they show a montage of global financial collapse. I mean, everywhere, every country you can imagine, everything's falling apart. And again, we see that mirrored in our own reality right now. I'll show you something here near the end of the video that has more to do with that. Again, like right now, as this show is on television, it's a very popular series, apparently did really well, but as this show is on television, we see it mirroring our own reality right now, as it seems that we're on the verge of some kind of a financial collapse. There's a lot of crazy things happening in the financial systems right now. But there's a few of the things here I thought was really interesting. I kind of wanted to show you here and talk to you about. Once again, with the idea of the New World Order, this whole idea of us leaving the Fourth Age and entering the Fifth Age. We're leaving the age of Pisces and entering the age of Aquarius, and that's going to be the time when there really is a full-on New World Order. And I've talked about this in other videos and some of my shows in the past, but what we're going to be seeing now is what we have been seeing over the last few years, is that a lot of established institutions have to fall away. They have to fall apart. And we're seeing this all over the planet. Now, specifically here, we're talking about the financial institutions. You may remember back in 2009, as far as I'm concerned, it really started with a lot of the banker bailouts. A lot of these banks found themselves in trouble and started getting bailed out by the federal government. We also saw the complete and total takeover of our healthcare systems. We're also seeing a major drop in people going to churches anymore. We're seeing a lot of established religion falling away. And it's going to have to enter the age of Aquarius, because they're all going to be meshed together. And again, I've talked about that with the Pope. I believe that's a big part of the Pope's role in all this. And also a lot of the more established TV-type preacher types here in America. We're seeing a lot of them talking to the Pope. We're also seeing a lot of talk of Chrislam. It's this merging of Christianity and Islam. So, as I said, we're literally watching the beginning of the age of Aquarius. We're seeing all these old systems fall away, and we're seeing this one new system come together. So for us to get there, we will have to have a financial collapse, a global financial collapse in the world. It's all going to have to change, because ultimately they want the death of cash. This is when you're going to start seeing the one world monetary system. There's even a scene here at one point in this episode where they show people in lines at the ATMs, and people are talking about, oh, you don't have cash? Man, you're in trouble. So it goes back to something else I've discussed quite a bit, that myself, throughout the month, I'll usually take a few extra trips here and there to the ATM, and I pull just a little cash out here and there, and I keep a lot of cash just kind of hidden around my house just in case. Because if something ever does happen, or let's say when something does happen with these financial institutions, you're going to be in a lot of trouble as far as getting money out of the bank. And if you think that's just a myth, or I'm just making that up, you can go back and look at what happened to Greece. They had people outside of the ATMs. They couldn't take more than $66 out a day. So we've been seeing signs of this and hints of this global collapse coming now over the last several weeks. And at the same time, we've got this series on television that's all about a coming global financial collapse. Now, of course, in the show, the collapse is brought on by what we're told is F Society, the F Society. And we find out that Elliot, it seems that Elliot is probably the guy behind F Society. There's a lot of mystery there, and again, you'll have to check this out. It's a very fragmented story the way they do it, because they're kind of showing it through his fragmented mind. Again, this is a guy that's schizophrenic and also a drug addict. So sometimes things are happening in the series and you're not really sure exactly what's going on. And they made it that way, and it keeps it really interesting. But even with the F Society, you can see a lot of the signs in the back. You know, money is dead. We are finally awake. F Society for president, things like now, this. Now, again, I want to just give you my impressions of these things. This is the way I kind of see this stuff. And again, you'll see this isn't my first video doing this. This is the kind of thing that I see and I do. I thought it was interesting. This is the character right here behind F Society. And oftentimes this character shows up on the TV screens, and he'll be talking all about what's happening, about the global financial collapse, all the debt's gone. We're coming after Evil Corps. We're coming after all of these people personally, these people that run these big corporations. The other thing I thought was really interesting, and again going back to kind of that duality and the idea of the New World Order coming around, is they talk about the New World Order all the time on this show. He even says, this guy, this character here from F Society, constantly talks about, you know, now that everything's burning down, we'll rise up from the ashes and start a new world. We'll start a new order. Said that time and time again throughout the series. So again, we find that New World Order conditioning. Also the idea of the phoenix. We find the phoenix being a really important occult symbol in all kinds of things nowadays. TV shows, movies, advertisements, whatever. So once again, we find this idea of the end of the fourth age and going into the fifth. The end of these financial institutions, everything will burn down. Not just the financial institutions, but everything will fall apart. And then, as this character from F Society says, we will rebuild anew. We will build anew. We will build a new order. We will build a new world out of these ashes. I also think it's interesting because, of course, you know, the main idea behind F Society is this right here. It's the F-U-C-K, society is the idea, yeah. But a lot of times with the occult, this means hidden. We find other meanings behind things. So I find it interesting that we have this character here that, as far as I'm concerned, is speaking as kind of an antichrist. Speaking as kind of this New World Order dictator, if you will, that, you know, now that we've destroyed everything, we're going to rise up from the ashes and start a New World Order. And this is the guy from F Society. And what is F? A, B, C, D, E, F. F is the 6. So this is the 6 Society. The number 6, this number at times represents imperfection. The number of the wild beast is 666 and is called a man's number, indicating that it has to do with imperfect fallen man, and it seems to symbolize the imperfection of that which is represented by the devil or by the wild beast. The number 6 being emphasized to a 3rd degree, so the 6 appearing in the position of units, tens, and hundreds, therefore highlights the imperfection and deficiency of that which the beast represents or pictures. From Revelation 13:18. Now, I mentioned there's other symbolism throughout the show. At one point, one of the buildings that a lot of the characters work in is actually 9/11. It's like 1109 or something like that. That was kind of minor. I didn't really want to include that. Now, that's the symbol right there in the center for the company they call Evil Corps in this television series. It's really interesting. If you look there, it's an enormous sun disk, and I've shown you this sun disk in a lot of other places through other videos. This sun disk is very much an Illuminati symbol, or a Freemason symbol of the higher order. These are sun worshippers. This goes back to worshiping Lucifer, worshiping the devil. Here's just one example I've shown you guys in the past. This is from Astana, Kazakhstan, which is considered an Illuminati capital. If you're not familiar with that, please check it out. But you'll find these sun discs all over the place. You'll find them in the Vatican as well. This is very much a symbol of the beast system. This right here is another example from 2014. This was a nuclear summit where all the world leaders showed up, even Obama. And many of these leaders were literally wearing the Illuminati pendant, or a little pyramid pendant, on their lapels. But of course, if you look there in the center, there's an enormous sun disk once again, of course, with the pyramid, hologram pyramid floating above it. And all around that inner circle is Egyptian hieroglyphics. So again, we find more of that beast system symbolism, even in a lot of our television shows. So we're almost done here. I just wanted to kind of complete a thought. So as I was saying with F Society, the Sixth Society, or the Devil Society, again, the whole way this is portrayed to us in this television show, it makes sense to me. Because again, it's all about destroying the old system, bringing in the new. We will rise from the ashes to create a new world, or a new world order. And so at one point here, it shows that this entire area, that's Times Square, shows it's just filled with people that are all wearing those masks for F Society. These are going to be all the followers, right? These are the people that after the collapse, after the destruction, they're basically signing on to the Devil Society, the Sixth Society, right? Now here's something else I wanted to add in here, just because I saw a confirmation of it a couple times in this episode, and I just wanted to share it with you. Before I do, though, I have to make something really clear. Now, what I'm going to show you here, it has to do with the number 23. Now, the number 23, and more specifically the numbers 923, have been showing up in all kinds of media now for quite a while. There's a lot of people out there online who've been researching this, and a lot of it has to do with a tie-in to this month, September 23rd. Now, a lot of people believe that something may be coming on that date. And just to be clear, I've made some videos about September 2015, but everything I put in my videos, these are all things you can bank on that are happening, that are coming, okay? I'm not one that has ever said it's going to be the rapture, or it's going to be some massive asteroid, or some massive catastrophe. I've never said that. I've never felt that or seen it. And I could be wrong. Maybe something's coming. Again, a lot of people are covering this. But I will say that for whatever reason, these numbers do keep coming up together quite a bit, the 23s and the 923s in all kinds of media. It's very interesting. There's definitely a synchronicity going on there. So again, I'm not sitting here trying to be a fearmonger and say, hey, 923 is it, Jesus is coming back, or there's an asteroid, or it's the beginning of World War III, or whatever it's going to be. Okay, I just find it interesting that we have this show that's all about collapse. For the last year or so, a lot of people are seeing these numbers, 23 and 923, associated with a collapse or a massive catastrophe or potentially a rapture, right? Who knows? And in this particular episode, the numbers 23 show up a couple different times, and I thought it was interesting. This right here, you can see it on the screen. You can make out the numbers kind of there in the lower left center. You can also see it up there at the very top right-hand corner. It's getting off an elevator. He's actually on the 23rd floor. So I saw that and I was like, that's interesting. I knew 23 showing up a lot. A lot of people are seeing the 23. And I really wouldn't have even included it if it wasn't for something else that popped up later on in the same episode. And this is that scene right here I was talking about. I saw this, I was like, all right, well, there's a confirmation for these numbers once again. I talked earlier in the video, we were talking about China's Black Monday and the effect that this global calamity is kind of having on China and the real. And of course, right here, they show you this just for a moment. This is one of those scenes where they're kind of showing a montage all around the world of how all the markets are going crazy and people are going nuts all around the world. But right there you have it. Once again, I thought it was interesting. I mean, there's your 239 or your 923. Once again, these numbers show up. And even up there in the top right-hand corner, if you wanted to, you can go as far as seeing the first three numbers, the 322. If you're not familiar with the 322, that is the number of the Skull and Bones Society, which is literally an Illuminati or higher-level Freemason organization that George Bush and John Kerry were both members of. So you can look that up. So I thought it was interesting. The 322, once again, the 239 shows up on a subject that's actually happening in the real world. So like I said, you guys, I have never been one to tell you that the 23rd is the end of the world and all that stuff, or that Jesus is coming back on that day, or any of that kind of stuff. I've never been a date setter. I'm an investigator. I'm a very curious-minded person. This is just the kind of thing I do. A lot of you do it out there as well. We're just trying to put the pieces together on all this, you know. I thought that was interesting. For those of you who are really interested in following the number 23, specifically the 923, I just wanted to show you those examples. And there's just one more thing I wanted to show you and leave you with when it comes to the duality at plays here. Again, this television series is playing along at the same time. We're seeing all these financial institutions all around the world are having a lot of issues. A lot of crazy things seem to be happening, right? So here's kind of the last thing I wanted to show you, and again, just another example of how I see this duality that plays out in media and in real life. This is from August 22nd, and that's a singer named Jordan Sparks. It was really weird that she was even there. It's typically, this isn't the kind of a place where they'll send an artist to promote their new album or whatever, right? And I thought that was strange. And then once I started looking more into it, it kind of made more sense to me. So again, on August 22nd, Jordan Sparks, the singer, rings the bell at the closing of the stock market. So of course, remember now, she rang the bell on Friday, closing it down for the weekend. On Monday, when the stock exchange opened up again, that's when we had this historic 1,000 point plunge. It's the worst they'd seen in years. The Dow dove 588 points at close. That means they propped it back up somehow. And you can look into that if you're curious, because they play with these numbers all the time. You know, they don't tell us the truth, of course. But that was a big deal. It was a historic 1,000 point plunge. And of course, August 24th is also considered China's Black Monday, where it sent markets reeling across the globe as it happened. So once again, we see this duality, right? We're seeing all these markets getting crazy. The financial institutions seem to be quaking back and forth. At the same time, we have this television series all about the destruction of the financial systems. But what made this most interesting to me, again, there was just something that wasn't connecting. I was like, why was Jordan Sparks there? I think I may have found why. It turns out that Jordan Sparks has also promoted this beast system symbolism, or this Illuminati symbolism. We got the pyramid over the eye. So once again, a lot of these artists, quote unquote, are constantly used to put forth this idea of the beast system, the New World Order, promoting this Antichrist system. So I thought that was a really interesting connection. We have this artist from out of nowhere. She's at the stock exchange, rings the final bell on a Friday. Her album that she was promoting is called Right Here, Right Now. I thought that was interesting. Right Here, Right Now. It begins, perhaps, the financial issues, the financial problems globally. Possibly, right? But then on Monday, of course, once they open back up, that's whenever all the stuff really started. And it's still reeling. It's still going crazy all around the globe right now with the financial systems. But as we often find with these kind of events that take place all around the world, and no matter what the event may be, oftentimes we'll find this Illuminati symbolism attached to that somehow. So I thought that was really interesting. We're at a place where we can no longer trust mainstream anything. I've talked about that on the channel a lot. A lot of you are fully aware of this idea that basically everything's a corporation, including America. And all these corporations are run just by a very small handful of conglomerates, you know, these really big corporations. So once again, this goes back to the news and things like this. This is why you can't trust the stories. Most of this stuff, there's a narrative there. There's an agenda behind all this stuff. So that leaves us, you know, a community of thinkers, a community of investigators. We're trying to put pieces together. We're trying to figure out what's true and what's not in this world filled with deceptions. And we're not always right. It's okay. You don't always have to be right. I like to see that people are out there thinking and trying, because we have to. You know, if not, you can just put your head in the sand and accept everything you see in the mainstream as the truth and as your reality, and that's fine. Just know that eventually that's going to destroy you. They are slowly trying to destroy us on many levels, of course, with our food, with our media, with our entertainment, quote unquote. On every level, this is an attack. We're really living in an effed society in a lot of ways right now. And the only hope, as far as I'm concerned, with any of this stuff is to have a mass awakening. People really need to wake up to what's going on. They really need to understand that this New World Order thing is real. This is an Antichrist system. We're dealing with very spiritual things now, and more of this stuff is going to be coming out. So it's time to make a decision for everybody. It has been for quite a while. You got to choose a side. If you don't choose a side, that side was already chosen for you. Anyway, thanks for checking out the video, guys. Stay awake, stay aware out there, and I'll talk to you real soon. Take care.